Have some cola.
Are you going to incorporate LAIRS within the 4th tier system? And if so, are you going to have it be a major part or just a small minor part like with everywhere else?
The LAIRS are sprinkled all throughout the world. We're not telling you where any of them are, because that's the point.
Yes, they'll be in tier 4.
Yes, they'll be in tier 4. Jeff's nicer than I am.
As I've frequented the Warhammer Alliance forums, I've noticed some people are starting to get disheartened about Blackguard not having this page of its own or more information. Can you share anything?
No. Ha ha ha.
Sorry.
My answers are easy.
You're mean.
Will you have 8 character customization?
Absolutely. Jeff just ran through a lot of that. Character customization obviously begins when you first generate your character. If you're smart enough to have bought the collector's edition of Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning,
On sale now.
you get special customization options, but on top of that we have the standard system, so you'll be able to trick out your character, make it look the way you want it to look. You know, the face you want, the skin you want, the hair you want, the beard you want, if appropriate, and so on and so forth. So you log in, you look the way you want, kind of as a figure. And as you're moving through the world, you have all the armor sets that Jeff was talking about. Each of those armor sets is sort of unique and specific to your career. So you basically have 20-ish sets across the 24 careers. Our hope was that the silhouette that your character creates when they're wearing sort of that career-specific armor makes it obvious to somebody who's looking at you across the battlefield what you are. We want people to look at an Ironbreaker and go, Ironbreaker. Look at an engineer and go, Engineer. And so we've designed all those armor sets to be very evocative of what you're supposed to be. But we want to make sure that all the Ironbreakers don't look identical. So you have the ability to basically dye your armor to look exactly the way you want it to look. Multiple sort of color layers for each piece of armor. So you can dye the trim one color, the main section a different color, and so on and so forth. If you're part of a guild and the guild has earned a heraldry, your heraldry appears on different parts of your character, and so on and so forth. And then within things like the Tome of Knowledge, where you're unlocking titles, you'll have titles that you'll have earned over time in the game. So each player, just visually, is going to be very, very unique and distinct.
Trophies.
Trophies also. Jeff Hickman will cut your head off and hang it on his belt. Not you specifically.
He's not threatening you.
But then sort of under the hood, in terms of how you actually play your character, because customization is 2 things. Is how you appear to other players and then how you play the game. We have the tactics system, which is sort of an on-the-fly, short-term spec line that you can basically decide, tonight I'm going to be doing some PvE, so I'm going to load this tactic set. And you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to be doing some RVR, I'm going to load this tactic set. So there will be differentiation between each play session, and then sort of the long-term commitment to how your character plays comes from the mastery lines, where each career has 3 distinct sort of specialization paths that they can go down over time to drive their character specifically into one direction or another that's sort of unique and interesting for their career. So tons and tons of customization.
Yes, you've been talking a lot about guilds and things that guilds can do and how you kind of flow people towards guilds. But I've heard right now the top renowned players or PvPers, when we talk renowned, get statues of themselves, the top 10 in the major city games.
That's true.
Will there be something cool like that for the guilds since you focus towards guilds?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, in the capital cities, just for anybody who doesn't know, in the capital cities, every week there's a statue that is erected for the top.
Jeff said erected.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem.
There's these statues, and they represent the top 10 renowned ring players for that week. And then there's one statue that is representative of the #1 renown holder of all time for that realm on the server. They're there in the capital cities for your friends to admire and for your enemies to chop down and hang on their belt.
Currently a statue of Jeff.
So, your question was about guilds. How do we do that with guilds? So, guilds have heraldry. So in each city, there is a guild tavern. This guild tavern is a place, it's not special for your guild. Don't mistake this for guild housing, it's not. It is a tavern where people who are in guilds can go and congregate to form alliances, talk about what they're going to do, meet, plan, do cool stuff. Around, depending upon what city you're in, we display the heraldry for the top 10 renown point earning guilds of that week within the capital city. right near their guild taverns. So you can see their heraldry, you can click on it, see who it is.
Cool. And then additionally, in the world, if your guild is currently controlling a keep, that keep will basically be decked out in your guild colors, or your heraldry hanging from the...
Like the AOC?
Exactly. The NPC guards that spawn will be wearing your color and heraldry and so on and so forth. So the guilds actually have an opportunity to really sort of stand out visibly all throughout the world, not just in the cities.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Why are you leaving?
Where are you going?
Come back!
Don't leave.
Bye! Steve, you're supposed to be stopping them.
How do you guys plan on balancing out loot distribution between DPS, tanks, healers in public quests, RBR, and renowned points?
Nice question.
In a public quest, let's start with the PQ loot system because that's
You want to go through that?
the sexiest. In public quests, basically, this is something that we want you taking part in from the very, very beginning. So, quick overview of what PQs are. You're running through the world, you're belligerent solo player X, you refuse to talk to other people, you're off on a quest, you're running through the world trying not to make eye contact with anyone, and you step into an area and you notice a little widget pops up on your screen going, there's a public quest going on here. You see all these other people running around and they're taking part in that sort of geographically specific, event-based narrative thing that's taking place in the world, and you've actually been sort of dynamically grouped with them against your will. And so you can't, like a coward, run away. Or, like a nice person, hang out and try and help the cause. And our hope there is that that sort of dynamic is one of the things Jeff was talking about earlier, where we're trying to subtly insinuate the idea that cooperative gameplay is important for a team-based factional competition. You kind of need to be cooperating. So let's say that you've decided to take part in the PQ, and you're fighting, and you're contributing to the public quest, and you become one of the top contributors. We have a really interesting system that basically calculates who the top contributors were, and then does a Vegas-style dice roll to see who earned the best loot from this particular public quest. You're given a bag. The bag is colored based on your particular rank within the top players in the PQ. And basically, each character has a loot table on themselves of stuff that would be useful to you. So if you've earned something in a public quest, you are guaranteed your choice of loot that is specific to your career. You're never going to be a witch hunter that's in a public quest, contributes really well, gets something, and it's an engineer's boot. Because nothing sucks worse than fighting really hard, doing really a great job, and then having to hand the boots to some jackass you barely know. So we basically wanted to make sure that in public quests, every time you get anything, it's something that's useful to you. And let's say you've played that PQ so many times that you actually have everything possible from that particular public quest, you can just ask for gold, and it will just pay you out. So there's a little bit of hand-waving there, because obviously it's a magic bag that has something for everyone in it. But it's our way of guaranteeing that in that system, you always get something that's useful to you. So that's how we handle PQ loot distribution. Leaving the hard part for Jeff now.
Thanks. So even in PQs, your question's valid. How do we judge contribution for healers, blah, 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 whatever it happens to be. So we're continuing to work on that. Right now, we give contribution, what we call contribution, for a number of different things. It's not just for damage. So it's pretty balanced in PQs right now, and the way that we divvy up loot, it's as fair as we can possibly make it. Like there is no, hey, do you want this? Hey, I want that. The system does it all for you. Outside of PQs, we kind of go the standard route. The standard route being, if you're alone, you get the loot. If you're in a group, there's a number of different loot mechanisms that you can choose as the group leader to use, whether it be a free-for-all, round-robin, master loot systems, whatever. Anybody who plays MMOs is going to be used to that system for us. We decided to go that way because that group structure is kind of it's a structure that you decide and you agree to join. And if you don't want to participate in a group because of the way that they're doing the loot, you can leave. But in general, what we find is that players use round robin with a loot threshold, and it just goes around. And if somebody wants to pass on their loot, they can. So we give you as many opportunities to do loot the way that you want to do it. But the PQ loot system is the highlight of fairness, and we try to use that in a lot of different places. Like you'll find that keeps, for example, which are the big RVR cool stuff in our game, they're PQs. So when you kill the keep lord and you capture the keep, a big chest drops, and you go through the loot roll just like you do in any PQ. So we try to utilize that mechanism wherever we can. Okay?
Thanks.
None of this been talk of like character aging effects, but wasn't sure if that was going to be in the launch. Do you have any more information on that? Dwarves with beards getting bigger, chaos getting...
This is Jeff's favorite question.
It's my favorite question. So I answered the same question in Paris. We're still looking into it. We do not think it's going to make it in for launch. We'd love to do it. It's one of those kind of cool things. What's important to us right now is that we have a really awesome, polished, great playing game. And it's just one of those things that kind of sits on the side and we go, oh, and, we have a design for it. We know how we do it. We just haven't done it. And since we haven't done it yet, probably means it's not going to make it to launch. Thanks.
CA Mythic have any plans for a cross-game building scheme, kind of like Sony Station has? It's like if you have like Ultima, Dark Age, and Warhammer, pay one fee. Sony has like, you pay for Station has $21.
Under discussion. Don't have an answer for it. It's something that we'll work out as we get closer to launch.
So there are 3 like different regions with the 3 different pairings. Are they isolated, or can you walk from one pair to another? Or do you actually have to go through like a port?
They are non-contiguous for technical reasons, and for other reasons as well.
They're not contiguous in the world.
That's the non-technical
Yeah.
reason.
So you basically have to take some transportation to get to the other racial pairing.
Have fun swimming to Altdorf.
So what did you guys have for breakfast?
So I had the best question. So I had a venti iced white mocha from Starbucks and that Coke.
I had a fruit punch beverage that was atrocious, don't drink it. And a leftover sandwich that my fiance made me and left on the counter. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
You already mentioned about the loot in reference to the public quest. Unlike another game that is probably the top game in MMOs, are the loots going to be level specific? Meaning, like, if you're level 12 doing a public quest and you get the loot bag, are you going to get like a level 9 item?
Again, like we said, there's basically a loot table for your career that is specific to that PQ. So basically, there's obviously, because they're geographically specific, we have a level sort of scope for each of the PQs. You will get loot that is appropriate for those levels from those PQs that also work with your character. So as a level 40 character, you can't go down to the very, very first PQ in the game and just grind until you get really awesome stuff.
No, I agree with that, but I mean, I don't want to go through something like a instance called Dead Mines when I'm level 14 or 15, which is level appropriate, and then seeing a level 9 item drop.
So
everyone has to ask their question in that voice from now on.
what you will find is just like monsters, PQs or quests have a level that we want you to be at. The loot that you get, whether you kill a level 14 monster or doing a level 12 to 14 PQ, you're going to get the loot of that level.
You've talked a little bit about the mount system, but I'm confused about the mages. How will their disc get like a speed increase, or will it be cosmetic also, like a chariot of these, like 2 stingrays?
It's a good question. He didn't ask if we were going to take the mages off the disc. I was waiting for
like that he didn't do that.
Yeah,
That's
because
good.
they can't be.
You're a true believer.
Perfect. Basically, obviously, the Magus starts on the disc, always on the disc. At the same point that normal players would be getting their mount, the Magus basically gets the option of a very sort of specific, tricked out, really fast disc. Super disc. Super disc. It's got ground effects that fit on the back, a big coffee can exhaust. So yes, it'll be, in addition to performing differently when it's serving as a mount, it'll also be visibly different, so you'll know.
That's right. But it's still a disc.
Yeah, why did you guys choose TZEECH as the Chaos God? TZEECH is awesome, but I'd just like to know, why couldn't you be a Khorne Chosen Warrior or a Nurgle Sorcerer maybe?
Well, first of all, just because we chose TZEECH doesn't mean we're not utilizing the other Chaos Gods.
That's correct.
They are in the game. You'll see plenty of their influence in different places. I'm trying not to announce anything we haven't announced. But for example, in the Inevitable City, there are entire wings of the city that are each dedicated to the other gods. The easy answer was, for a game like ours, for an MMO, where you have to be basically putting magic in in order for things to sort of make sense. We wanted to stay as close to the lore as possible, and obviously we couldn't have a lot of Khorne-based magicians running around the game. So TZEECH was just the right choice.
Anything.
And we're going to retain, so there's that. So yeah, so that was obviously one of the sort of internal debates that we had early on. Was obviously when you have an IP as broad as Warhammer, you can't put it all in right away. So the half-life expansion will come later. It'll be delicious.
Hi, I read up on that the way the capital cities work is that they're defended. The game completely resets to tier 1. It starts completely over in terms of progression. Is that
You read it
I
correctly.
read it correctly?
That's not
So
correct.
just push back 1 tier? Is that how it works? When the cities
So,
If only we had a whiteboard.
yeah, if only I could just, I have a Sharpie.
I don't think they would mind if we drew on there.
So, the way that the campaign works, the campaign takes place in tier 4, so it takes place across the upper levels of the game. If you as a realm are able to capture all the zones, push to your enemy's capital city, and then get your butt handed to you at their capital city itself, the campaign resets. So what that means is there is a central contested zone that's basically halfway between both capital cities. All of the zones revert back to order owning half, destruction owning half, and a contested zone in the middle. And you basically start over that piece of the campaign. It doesn't have any effect on tier 1, 2, or 3, nor does it have any effect on the other 2 racial pairings. Make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome back.
I
Still got notes.
So, I recently read that in a lot of the high-level and endgame-oriented gear that you were going for a more lateral or horizontal itemization approach, aka +2 certain skills or to mastery, trees, as opposed to just appears that in. I guess my question is how prevalent is that going to be among endgame gear so that you can customize towards specific specs that you're trying out, or are these like +2 skills only going to be in the absolute highest end gear as collectibles?
So it's not going to be in the absolute highest end gear, but it's there for the high end gear. So if we talk about 20 armor sets, it's probably in the last 3, but that's something that we're still talking about, like exactly how we're going to tweak those. And remember, armor sets in our game are not just a one progression line. There's multiple progression lines, and they kind of flow back and forth within each other. One of the things about RVR, and it's something that people sometimes have a hard time with, is one of the reasons we call it RVR is that it's not just PvP, and it's not just PvP because you have a realm. It's PvP because we intertwine PvE into it. That you will be doing things that, if you choose, you can progress PvE armor sets and then kind of weave your way back into an RVR armor set, or vice versa. So there's a lot of different ways that you can progress, and even the highest level armor sets are pretty accessible, not easy, accessible for everyone.
So customization will be a very big part of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.